oldest and strongest human emotion is fear. And the oldest and strongest type of fear is trepidation of the unknown. When we were children, our parents told us that monsters didn't exist. But we were sure that something was lurking under the bed or in the closet. Fear sees, even if our eyes are closed. Welcome to the realm of the arcane. My name is Lon Strickler. Join me as I examine unexplained creatures, strange manifestations, and remarkable realities. Imagine this next hour as a voyage of discovery to strange lands, seeking not for new territory, but for new knowledge of the supernatural. Come on board as we begin this adventure together. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Arcane Radio, where we explore the unexplained live on Beyond Explanation. I'm your host, Lon Strickler, coming to you from the anomalous state of Pennsylvania. Now, before we get started, I'm going to ask you for a favor. Now, Arcane Radio and Beyond Explanation channel is made possible by you liking, subscribing, and sharing our programming. Advertising budgets and increased use of limiting technology has made it more and more difficult to finance this venture. So as a result, Super Chat donations are essential for us to continue offering you our unique content. Your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. Also, every second Friday of each month, beginning in on April 9th, I will be presenting Fortean Friday on Arcane Radio. Now, instead of Phantoms and Monsters Fortean research team and affiliate members appearing every 3 months or so, Fortean Friday will be a monthly roundtable discussion that references current investigations, trend paranormal, and the ability for the audience to ask our members questions in the chat. So we all look forward to it. You know, tonight, what we're doing tonight actually is going to be similar to what the Fortean Friday setup's going to be. So you get a kind of a look at what it's going to be like. We'll normally run maybe 2 members or so. If I can get 3 in, it should be interesting. So tonight, I welcome Phantoms and Monsters Fortean research investigators Butch Witkowski, Rob Shaw, and Ryan Fusco to Arcane Radio. Now, Butch Witkowski is a UFO, paranormal, and cryptid investigator and the founder of UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania, based in Birdsboro, Pennsylvania. Ryan Fusco is a paranormal, cryptid, and UFO investigator based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Rob Shaw is an experienced Fortean investigator based in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Our team and affiliate investigator information can be found at cryptidhunters.com. cryptidhunters.org. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat. Super chat donations are very much appreciated. So guys, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to be here.
Oh, absolutely, Lon. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you gentlemen. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sir.
So I'm going to first start off with Butch and kind of give us a briefing of what you've been doing and what's been going on in your neck of the woods lately.
Well, first of all, go get a haircut.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do it until I get my shot, man. Yeah, I look, I'm ready to go down and get it done right now. But Matt, I kept suggesting to Matt about getting it done, and he says no. So he's the boss, so I'm going to listen to him.
Well, I got 2 updates. The first one I'm going to talk about a little bit is the UFO reported flying over the American Airlines Airbus at cruising altitude, which was recorded by a ham operator of the whole conversation. Well, yesterday, the FAA refuted the fact that that even took place, which is kind of weird because it's an FBI investigation at this point. Second, the missing 8 tourists in the Ural Mountains over in Russia. There's 8 individuals who did not get a permit to go to that site where the Dyatlov incident took place in Mount Orton. So they were supposed to report in on the 10th of February. Nothing from them since. I did get a hold of a researcher in Russia, mainly a UFO guy, but he said he would look into it because he had some connections at the media outlet EI agency in Russia, in Moscow, and heard back from him today, and he says everything it's clammed up, just tight as a drum. So he said, just from his intuition, when he was a younger fellow following the Dyatlov case, he said that's exactly what happened. They just went dark, and he said, now with this deal with the 8 missing tourists, he calls them, they just went dark. So that's not good. In his opinion, he said they're either lost or they already found them and they're no longer alive. But he's going to keep digging and let us know what's going on. And which is pretty much about all you can ask. I mean, you're not going to get much out of the Russians. I mean, that silly thing that they came up with on that their second investigation, where they said a slab avalanche caused the hike to die. Yeah. That was such nonsense because, first of all, there is no way anybody I know, including Jesse Owens, is going to outrun an avalanche of any type. And second, the tent's still there. So what, the avalanche jump over the tent? And the footprints are still there, leading from the tent down to the tree line. Mm-hmm. And the injuries to the bodies, it's just, how do you explain somebody's head being fractured or chest caved in or broken ribs or bones and cuts and bruises and gashes and missing eyes, missing tongue, and tell me that it's hypothermia that killed them?
Yeah.
And the first autopsy report says flat out it was an unknown compelling force, like they were hit by a speeding truck. So, the avalanche theory went out the window because the tent's still there. There's no sign of an avalanche. It didn't disrupt the footprints leading down to the tree line. And another thing, why did the lead investigator, who was only on site that day that they started back in when it happened back in February, why did he quit? I mean, he was Russia's top-notch forensic investigator. He was the man. And after 8 hours, the guy gets on a helicopter and says, I quit, I'm done. And he leaves.
Yeah. Well, the Soviet system, I mean, they, you can't really explain much of what they ever did back then. They're to a degree, they're that bad now. That whole case, let's go back to that. Let me get to Ryan. We'll go back to that later because I want to ask you a few things about that and what your opinions are. Okay. So Ryan, what have you been investigating? I mean, we know the case in Oklahoma, and we're going to have some shots, some photo shots that you took there. Why don't you explain what's been going on out there?
Oh, so yeah, for the most part, when I was on last time, I think I explained quite a bit of it, but towards the end, I didn't really get to say what had happened out there. But for whoever didn't read the investigation, basically, what the end game, I don't even know if this is the end game or not, but anyways, what I saw with my own eyes, and I did get a lot of it on film. They were visiting. They were going in our cars out in the parking lot, in the driveway. And I have pictures of this. I have a picture of something sitting in the front of a truck. It's not human. You can tell because you can see its eye and, anyways, they were coming in every 10 minutes, changing, entities. It was very crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But when we went outside to confront them, there was 4 of us. They didn't say one word to us. And if you shined a light on them or a camera, they would look like vegetation. It was pretty weird, but you could literally just sit there and stare at them. You could see them. I mean, they were right there. It was pretty wild. But yeah, that's what they were doing. I don't know. They were just, it looks like they were just taking tours. And it's honestly what it looked like they were doing. But after that, I got home. It started on December 1st. Weird stuff started at my house. And then basically, I pretty much brought something back with me that I'm guessing. Yeah, but I was talking with David Eckhart. We were for the last couple months here, and me and him got something similar going on. So, I mean, for right now, like especially the stuff that's been I've taken through the front door and stuff like that. So, but
well, what do these entities look like?
The ones in Oklahoma or the ones?
No, the one in Oklahoma. Yeah, even the ones you got out at your place.
Oh, the ones that the one in there was two main ones. That were bringing the groups in. The one was a lady. I have a photo of her. It looks like a cartoon though. It's so weird. She had orange glowing skin. She had black polka dots and she wore sunglasses. And whenever we were in the basement of the house, they waved to us and smiled at us. And I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. And then, the other one had a red jacket on and he had big, tall stalks coming out of his head and he had blue jeans on. But I mean, every time I would say something to them, they wouldn't say anything. They would just sit there and stare at us. So it was pretty wild. But then the ones I got on out here, I don't know, they look odd. They don't look like anything that would come up in any abduction stories or contact cases I've ever heard of. None of it. It's crazy.
So some of the images that you got, there was one that looked distinctly like a canine of some type.
Yeah.
With the white eyes. It wasn't very definitive, but it did have the shape of a canine. But the one that interested me the most was the glimmer man or glimmer image that was in the tree. And this phenomena we have heard about a lot, but as far as getting photographs, it's not that easy to get.
Yep.
And if you think about the Predator movies, that's what these things look like. And
exactly
that picture you got looked just like that.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the crazy part too, is when I took that, I felt like I was being stared at. So, and I was the only one at the house that day. That was in the middle of the day, the second day. And I turned around, the sun was beating on me, and then it was really windy there too, because in Oklahoma, I mean, it's windy. So, but I turned around and I could literally see what I took a photo of. It was just an image doing this. I was like, oh my God. And my heart started beating real fast. And I held my camera up, snapped a picture, and then snapped another one. And then I went to go step forward, and then it moved. It moved its arm and its leg down like this, and then it just disappeared completely. And I was like, see ya, and walked back in the house. But yeah, it was pretty wild. But his dog, the wild part, his dog listened to me. You know what I mean? I didn't even know the dog, but it would go run after these things like crazy. It was insane. I didn't want anything bad to happen to it. But yeah, the dog was a big part of it out there, because the first night when I was out there, he was barking like crazy, and I didn't think to go look on the other side of the house, where the second night, whenever we saw that blue light in the yard, I'm like, what the heck was that? It just disappeared. And I said, he looked over to the right and he goes, there's a red light in the field over there. I said, well, go get your flashlight. So he goes, gets his flashlight, comes back out, and there it was for the first time in my eyes ever. There they were sitting there. I mean, I have one picture of it, two pictures of it. They all had the same outfits on. They had these brown colored outfits, and they all had green goggles, bright goggles on. And they were all moving like this back and forth. And it was like a wave. It was really weird looking, but it was amazing to see, you know. And then right after that, my phone died. I was like, what? And it was like 84%. So
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Have you talked to the witness lately?
Yeah, I just talked to him last week. Yep. Yeah, there's still stuff going on out there. So I mean, I asked if the same stuff was happening in the driveway. He said, yeah. And he said that now they were actually coming inside the house now. So yeah. Yeah, because they were knocking on the door there.
Has he been trying to get photographs or evidence?
I keep telling him to get better ones because he keeps sending me blurry ones.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, especially with someone who didn't know anything about the field at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get through to him about it. But yeah, I said, you got to get a better photo. I said, like the dog one, that was a good photo. Especially the one coming out of the side of the house. We actually saw those. It was crazy. They were hopping. Like how he said, they were hopping like dog. It was strange. They were hopping like rabbits, but they were hopping really high in the air. It was crazy. It was insane to see.
Yeah.
But,
well, for folks who want to read the investigation, it's over at cryptidhunters.org, and the title is Investigation: Glimmerman Canine-like Humanoids in Comanche County, Oklahoma. So Ryan's report is there. The photographs are there. So if you want to look at it, just go over and check it out. So Rob, I haven't had you on the show, I don't think ever, to be honest with you.
No, sir.
What's been going on down in Point Pleasant lately?
I hate to tell you, buddy, not much lately, but oh man, what the last 2 or 3 months it's been really kind of just dead. But
yeah,
was it this past fall, this summer, and especially during the spring, it was just nuts around here.
So give me an idea of what's been going on. What was going on?
A lot of just the unknown craft, a lot of them I call it Uncle Sam or, alphabet agency tech. It's what, my gut feeling is. I'd say a greater majority of them, every now and then we'll see something that's just really, just really out there. And it's not, you wouldn't call it tech. It's a textbook UFO. But we've had a little bit of mysterious vocals, howls, like I was telling you about, what was it? Back during this, I think it was during last fall. He just gnarly howls, it sounds like a, the old school fire, the big fire sirens you hear. I mean, that loud. And you just know in your heart that's not coyotes,
Yeah, well, I've listened to the audio. Yeah, I've listened to the audio you collected, and those aren't coyotes, and those just aren't dogs. I mean, this is something different, and you have been gathering evidence, mostly audio evidence, over the years, but there's something definitely in those woods around Point Pleasant.
Oh God, buddy, it's unreal. I mean, just something I think's the understatement of the year. It seems like it's. I hear stuff from people you would never dream. You hear.
Yeah.
I mean, better not. Better not do. How it is. It's just when I think I've seen it all, I'll hear something or somebody will call me. Man, you won't believe this. And unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. All the reports I've had in Mason County and areas around Point Pleasant over the years. I mean, of course, it's known for Mothman and, UFOs and such, but man, I'm telling you, the Dogman phenomena and upright canine phenomena seems to be really picking up there. And it just seems to be a hot spot for a lot of unexplained anomalies. And, I have to commend you for, keeping on it and collecting audio and trying to discern what's been going on.
Oh, thank you, Lon. I appreciate it. It means the world to me. Like I told you a while back, I mean, if we had 8 people down here full time, I mean, when the stuff cuts loose, I think we'd still be overwhelmed. But you know how it is. It's feast or famine. And it's like that here, probably just like anywhere else. But you might go months and just weeks, just about ready to give it up. And next thing you know, it's just stuff cuts loose, and it's just like I said, the unknown craft. That's really interesting. It's stuff been, I think, like the TR3B type thing. We see the deltas and triangle look at things, and we've got the orbs, and I've managed to get a good bit of pictures. A lot of it you just can't make sense out of. When you're looking at it, especially zooming in, you can tell it's not a star, it's not a satellite. It's, like I said, most of them when they go over, you just kind of get that feeling something ain't right, and it's just they're dead quiet. I mean, absolutely silent. And we've been seeing a bunch of them here lately. Well, the majority of the ones we see, we kind of like 36 one night. And it was, of course, around the 24th or 25th. I think we gave up about 2 o'clock in the morning, but they look. It looks like just a star that just don't look right. It might be just a little bit brighter, or just got kind of an odd twinkle to it. And when you start paying attention, next thing you know, it might just blink out. Next thing you know, all these lights come on. And if you didn't know better, it looks like an airplane. And we got what was it, about 2 years ago? We started looking at the FAA, and like the federal regulations on the light patterns and everything. And these things look just enough to pass. But once you start looking up, what's legal and what's not, they're, especially when they get go right overhead, you can tell it's just something's not right. The colors are always off. They don't blink right. I've seen LED lights on them. I mean, some really weird stuff.
Have you had any reports of any type of close encounters or possible abductions down your way?
No, not. I've talked to a woman up in Galpus Ferry, between Galpus Ferry, right before you get to Apple Grove. She seen one about 20-some years ago, really close, within a couple hundred yards. It was following the river and cut across the field, and it really freaked her out. She just got a few seconds glimpse of it and ran inside. She said this thing was big as a football field, massive, huge. No, probably not even. She said 200 feet, maybe just barely above the tree lines. And that's about the closest thing I've got to so far around here. Of course, you know how it is. It's people's. It's like twisted arms. I mean, a lot of this stuff. Just in the weirder it gets, you know better than me, buddy. It's
well, you're a longtime resident of Point Pleasant. You know the area. You know the people. You work on the river. What do you think is the reason for all the strange stuff that goes on around there?
I have no idea. I mean, the only thing I could think of is probably like a lot of stuff like Kill said. You got the two, where the river, Canal River and Ohio join. It seems like you've always got an influx of a lot of activity. When you got two major, waterways joining. It seems like the Native America. Who was it? I think Andrew Colvin wrote about. I seen an article or a post he put out a while back about the Canal River Valley being one of the oldest. I think it's glaciated, maybe. One of the oldest glaciated river valleys that they've found so far. And going back with the Native American history, I mean, it's just amazing, especially when you get like into the Moonite people. And they talk about, the old giants that were the Alagui tribe, or, become the Allegheny later on, supposedly. Supposedly the land they had for probably generations, the way it sounds. It sounded like, the local native cultures talked about, that was their place, and they didn't want nothing to do with it. The mounds and all the structures, that was all theirs, and it was the whole land was, it was bad juju to begin with, the way they talked. So I got lucky and had a real good family friend that I grew up from my time I was 16 till about 10 years ago when he passed away. He was half Native American, and actually owned a little you call it a Shawnee Trading Post, little Indian museum. And my gosh, he had hundreds of all kind of artifacts. Like, he even had, arrowheads like you wouldn't believe. But he taught me a lot about this stuff. And he had a big map that went on the wall. I'd say it was about a 5 by 10 foot, just massive map. And this thing covered, you wouldn't believe it, just trading routes, different hunting grounds for different seasons, and this and that. And we was looking at it one time. He said, "Do you see anything strange there?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Something strange. What's here?" There's a big blank spot, just nothing. He said, "That's where you're standing." He said, "That's most of Kentucky, a little bit of Ohio, and just about this whole state." He said, "It's back then we might come through here. Our people come through here. And we hunt. And we never stayed more than 4 or 5 nights. But just something about this land. It was notorious for generations, just being, not a wholesome place to be, for very long.
Yeah.
According to them, and their ancestors. So it seems to go back as far as, anybody can find.
There have been so many tribes that have come through there. And there's been a lot of battles there between settlers and tribes themselves and such. I mean, the history is so varied. there's got to be an imprint on the land. You know, I've been saying for years that, you know, it's no wonder why something like a Mothman or the Mothman would show up there, because it was probably summoned by something that's part of the land. You know, it's just so much weird stuff that goes on down there. You know, I get people all the time making comments and making suggestions about phenomena in and around Mason County, in particular into up and down the Kanawha River and up into the Ohio Valley. It's just so much going on there.
Oh, it is. It's unreal. He said any place that would blow John Keel's mind back in the day just about gave him a permanent fit. It's got to be a pretty heavy area.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you read some of the Cosmic Question, or what was the Eighth Tower, you know, that was the other half
right.
of the original prophecy. So you could tell he was really having a problem. I mean, this stuff was just really getting to him. And that guy was, you know, the way he sounded fearless. I mean, but this stuff, you know, just like where you go into he'd just pick a spot at random, take off walking, and 2 or 3 hours later end up at a farmhouse he'd never even seen. As soon as he'd walk in, the phone would start ringing. All this stuff was, he said, man, you know, this wasn't Uncle Sam, this wasn't the MIBs, this was the phenomenon, and it was letting me know, you know. I could even imagine, you know.
So, Butch, you know, you're hearing what Rob is describing with all the UFO phenomena down in that area, and you know, it's no wonder. I mean, everywhere we seem to be here in the East Coast, these triangle and large UFOs just seem to pop up everywhere.
Oh yeah, and they've been around for a while now.
Yeah.
I had 2 in basically the same area in a 3-month period. And that was in 2010. Well, one was like in June, the other was like in September. But and they were multi-witness. So, and then one of my investigators, a police officer, he was coming home from work and up by Indian Town Gap, heading home, and he followed one. He said, you know, just cruising along 35, 40 mile an hour. So it wasn't real high in the sky. He figured maybe 2,500, 3,000 foot, quiet. One light in the front, one light in the back, not flashing, just on, and just followed it till it hit the mountain. And he said when it went over the mountain, he got the other side of the mountain, it was no longer be able to be seen. But yeah, look, the UFO phenomena in eastern Pennsylvania, pretty much all of Pennsylvania, but and Ohio, West Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, this whole circle, New York State, has always been, you know, ripe with UFO sightings. Unfortunately, with all this snow and rotten weather, we haven't had any really clear skies to get out and look. But you know, you can go to any one of the dark spots in Pennsylvania, you know, and I usually go down the road to French Creek State Park, which is like number 2 darkest spot in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And then one night we saw 16, and we were there with police officers. So they are what they are. I mean, you know, people say, well, we're looking for disclosure. Well, if seeing these things, you need disclosure. I don't know what you're going to disclose. They're up there. We don't know what they are. We don't know who's putting them on there. We don't know if there's anybody in them or if they're mechanical or who knows? Are they a probe? What are they? Nobody knows. You know, it's pretty much like I always say, you know, all this is paranormal. It doesn't matter whether it's ufology, ghosts, cryptids. It all falls under paranormal because there's no normal explanation for any of it. And, you know, and after a while, you just get used to it. And that's the way you approach the reports, and that's the way you approach the investigations. You know, that's pretty much the way it is. It always has been. Now, sometimes you luck out, and you get some really good evidence. But then, you know, you'll spend months following that up, and then all of a sudden you hit a dead end. That's it. It's done.
Right.
But
This,
now we're coming in.
go ahead.
We're coming
Go
in
ahead.
now for the bipedal reports. They'll start coming in probably around April or May.
Let's hope. Yeah. Let's hope. Going back to this Dyatlov incident, what do you think it was? I mean, what do you think actually happened there? You know, I've read several books, several articles about this. I've talked to people about it. You know, there's not much of it really makes much sense to me. You know, I know that there's supposedly a Bigfoot-like creature there, and then people talk about other type of phenomena that could have been associated with it. What are your thoughts on it after looking into it?
Well, it comes down to well, it's definitely not a mink, because all those are Bigfoot. Russian calls it mink, but Bigfoot reports are way north of that location. All the reports. Matter of fact, there's only 2 reports that I found in that area. One thing that was strange right off the get-go was, going years back, this is before Dyatlov, before that group, 9 Mansi warriors disappeared. 9. In the 50s, early 50s, mid 50s, a transport plane for the Russian government with 9 people on board crashed. They were all killed. And then you have 9 hikers. Now we got missing 8 hikers. The 2 things that I think are being researched a lot by the Swiss research team that's been out there twice now, and they're the ones that said, no way was it a avalanche. You know, it's not, the slope isn't there, and there wasn't that much snow. So, you know, they're looking at infrasound as one, you know, it just drove them nuts, but that doesn't explain the injuries. And the other thing was maybe ball lightning. Now, if they were
lightning, I heard of that one.
If they were in a group and the ball lightning was low enough, it'd be like running into a hand grenade.
It's a pretty big jump.
Yeah. But when you look, you know, I got the autopsy reports, I got the autopsy pictures, I got all that stuff. And, you know, I just look it over and over, trying to make sense of it. You know, the wounds, I mean, and they all had, I mean, any one of the wounds that they had would have killed them, period. End of story. Right, there was nobody that would have survived any of their wounds. But the one guy, I mean, his skull was crushed from the frontal lobe all the way to the rear and heading over to the other side of his skull. And he was laying in the snow, and there was no rocks around or anything like that. You don't fall in the snow and fracture a skull like that. Broken ribs, and I don't mean broken ribs as in they're just cracked or like somebody pushed them or something like that. I mean, these ribs were severed. They were broken. Leg bones, arms, fingers, it's just crazy. And of course, the only thing that bothers me is that about 2 years ago, and I can't get any information. I'm trying and the Dyatlov Research Center in Russia is trying to help. They actually exhumed one of the bodies, one of the males. It was done. He was exhumed. The body was taken away. The body was brought back and reburied, and they never mentioned anything about it. It was actually somebody that actually saw him replacing the body that spilled the beans on him. Now, they've been asked about it. The government's been, well, they're not going to give any answer there. But it's just one of those weird, stupid reports where did the government have anything to do with it? Was it natural phenomenon? How does the main autopsy reports from the main surgeon, autopsy surgeon, state that what killed them was an unknown compelling force? And what the hell is an unknown compelling force? I mean, if you get hit by a truck, you get hit by a truck. That's it. That's the compelling force. If you're struck by lightning, that's a compelling force. You know, if you fall off a cliff, that's a compelling force. Laying face down in the snow, where the group runs, most of the group gets to the tree line, which is a mile from the tent, and 3 other ones head back to the tent. And then they said, well, they died of hypothermia. Well, that doesn't explain the injuries. I mean, yeah, these people were barefoot. Half of them had very little clothing on, but hypothermia, the 3 of them were already dead.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy with the skull fractures, one doctor said this guy lasted about 3 or 4 minutes. And the one girl, same thing. And then you find the other ones in a creek. Now, he said he wouldn't know why they ran to the creek. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. But it's one of those cases where unless something happens with the 8 tourists that are missing now, we're probably never, ever going to find out what happened to these kids.
Well, I mean, was this near the same area where these people disappeared?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were headed there. They were going. The Russian government does not allow anybody there. They don't. To go there, you have to have a special permit. And there were 3 groups out on special permits going up to pay respects to the group. There's a monument there. And then, they're in contact via cell phone, radio, whatever they're using. But this other group, this 4th group with the 8 people from Moscow, they did not get a permit. They just took off. And they were supposed to call back into whoever, friend of theirs or family member or something, on the 10th to say that they were on their way back. Well, they never had any contact with them at all. The Mansi Village people were notified. They said, no, we didn't see any 8 people. We saw this team and we saw that team. They came, put up flowers or monuments and took off. And they all returned. But the 8, haven't heard a thing from them since they were supposed to return or hear from them on February 10th this year. And they've heard nothing. But here's another thing. They haven't sent out a search team either. That I checked on this morning. There's no search team has ever been sent out for these people. So, it's just like that one note in the diary of the investigation when you look through the reports, which is all available to the public. I mean, it's there, where a chief investigator from the chief investigator's office in Moscow talked about he was going to make his way out there on February 2nd to check on the dead hikers. They didn't die till the 5th or the 9th was when everything happened, when they were found. So what did he know that nobody else knew?
That whole thing is weird. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because look, if something like that happened here, I'm pretty sure, especially with the first incident, then having this follow-up incident happen, it would be all over the news here. Yeah. And it almost seems that it kind of got out from there by circumstance, does it seem to you like they're trying to cover it up somehow?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, because the media company in Moscow is called EI.
Yeah.
There's a long Russian name for it, but I can't pronounce it right.
Yeah.
But EI gave it to Newsweek. Newsweek published it here in this country.
Right.
So from the point of being published in Newsweek and EI in Russia, after that initial posting, there's been nothing. Zero. Nada. Nothing.
Why wouldn't they go back up?
They either they already know what happened to them, or they're already gone.
Yeah.
But when you look back on the history of that mountain, you have those 9 Mansis way back in the early 1900s. 9 of them die. They're on a hunting trip and they're dead. And then in the early 50s, you have a transport plane with 9 people on it, a pilot, co-pilot, and passengers, and it crashes with 9 people. And then the Dyatlov case, 9 people. Now this one's different because it's 8.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll find out eventually. It's the way it always works. But
Butch, one thing.
The guy in Russia.
What do you say, Rob?
I was wanting to know, Butch, one thing, wasn't there at least one or two of the folks they found in that original investigation? They found them either near the wood line or near a tree, a good ways from the tent. But they said, I remember reading about their hands was so tore up, they were down to the bone, and they said the only way that could happen is where they were trying to climb the tree or trying to get up, and they just kept on going until
there were happened. Two made all made it to the tree line with the exception of 3 who stopped short of the tree line. They turned around, they were heading back to the tent, but they died 1, 2, 3 in a row. But the rest made it down to the tree line. 3 wound up in the creek, and one tried to climb the tree, and they saw the broken branches and the guy at the bottom looked like he was trying to start a fire, but the one guy's clothing was burned, but they had no fire at the campground. Where they camped, there was they never used their stove. That was still packed. So it's
his ribs were crushed.
It's just bizarre.
I think I have crazy photos of that too. The last photo they took.
That's what I was just going to bring up. Why in the hell would they have a tripod in the middle of the tent? And that last, I was going to ask Butch about that. What's your feelings on that, Butch? I mean, do you feel that that's pretty well legit? I mean, because it's in the 2 books I've read, and I know a lot of people talk about it. They usually don't bring up the photo there. They'll talk about the camera.
Yeah, because the photo is real whitened out, but you can see an object on it.
Oh yeah, the white dot. That was the camera that was found in the creek. They say that was the last photograph taken. They actually retrieved 3 cameras, but they've only ever put out film from the camera the one you're talking about with the white flash on it, and there's one off to the left also. But they said that could have been their excuse for that was it could have been the film was screwed up by being in the water. It was actually on the one guy's person, but he was in the water, so that's what they figured. But it's funny because the Dyatlov Institute Research Center, they have all the negatives from all the cameras. I mean, they have them all, every one of them. They have 2 of the 4 cameras. The other 2 were, I guess they were just falling apart or whatever the case was. But, everything's come up on this. I mean, they blame the military. They blame the Mansi people. They blamed Bigfoot. They blamed aliens, UFO. I mean, they ran the whole gamut on this thing. And the one guy from Switzerland, pretty sharp investigator, everybody was saying, well, it had to be, the slab avalanche because the tents collapsed in the middle. Well, no, the tents collapsed in the middle because they cut the sides out of it.
Yeah, they cut it. Yeah,
the ends are still up.
Yeah, that's one aspect of that whole thing.
They must have been watching something. They really must have been watching something because they actually cut slits at the top, like gun slits. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Before they cut into the sides. So did they see something, hear something coming, or whatever it was? I mean, it just scared the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one aspect of that whole thing that just seems so weird to me. Why they slit the tent?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they just go out the front of the tent, or were they looking at something, or was it? I don't know. I mean, it just seems that they went crazy somehow and started ripping and cutting the tent to either get out or.
It's a mad panic.
Bizarre.
Mad panic.
Or a couple of them were sleeping and 2 of them were looking, and it seems like one of them freaked out.
And they talk about a rogue wind. Well, what's a rogue wind? I mean, it's either 100 mile an hour or it's 5 mile an hour. But they say the rogue wind passing between certain obstacles at a high speed would almost put out an infrasound, which infrasound is, we can't hear infrasound. Animals can. That's way below us. We can't hear that. But what it does do is it causes hallucinations and all that kind of stuff. So is that a possibility? Yeah, I guess it is. But how are you going to prove it?
Yep.
It's never happened before. The 9 Mansi that died on that hunting trip, they just died. They had all kind of wounds. They figured they were attacked by somebody, but there was nobody ever charged with that. And the plane that crashed, that they still didn't put anything up on that. It wasn't like they were reporting engine trouble or anything like that. The plane just went down. And that tent only had one door, and that was at the one end. The other end is solid. It was an old military tent, basically a fancy lean-to made out of canvas.
Right.
That was, and you know, at both ends, they had all their gear and the stove and their food and all that stuff. So, but it scared them enough that they had to get out that tent. And
They were burning alive or something.
Another thing is they never found any of these knives. Where are these knives that cut into the tent?
They never found any knives?
Never thought about it.
Nope.
Never thought about that.
Nope.
Unbelievable.
They found a hatchet. They found a hatchet
Yeah.
that was inside the tent. A hatchet.
Yep. It was in a bag still.
No knives.
Wow.
Not even a pocket knife.
And judging from the looks of that tent, I mean, you know, that wasn't a couple Swiss Army knives doing that. I mean, that was, you know, I mean, they had to have.
Yeah, it was sliced
You know,
open.
so yeah, it was unbelievable the way it looked. That last picture in all the first book they put out. That ugh.
Yeah.
That
The
guy
two
was
people
holding
by the
it, you
tree
could
line
tell It
had-
looked like a blender hit it.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
two people by the tree line had crushed ribs too.
I think the best book that I read that was pretty accurate was called Dead Mountain.
That's it. Forget about it. Dead Mountain.
Yeah, that's the one I read. One of the ones
Yeah,
I read.
that's pretty. He's pretty open-minded about the whole thing, and he lets everything go into play. And with a case like this, you really do have to let everything go into play, because let's face it, we don't know what caused it. Animals were, as far as missing eyes and tongues and stuff like that, animals were ruled out from the very beginning. An animal doesn't pull a tongue out.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there would have been shoe marks, paw marks, everything all over that face. Same thing with the eyes. The eyelids weren't even damaged. Excuse me. So I think we'll see. You know, see where it goes.
Well, is there a case even similar to like that? I mean, even similar to that here in the United States at all?
No, nothing I can find. I looked. I mean, there's a lot of missing people. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But as far as
Left for dead, no.
yeah, exactly.
Not with that. Not with that kind of madness involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had 39 missing cases here in Pennsylvania where the people were never found, or when they were found, they were dead.
Right.
So
I got somebody in the chat who's asking about Todd Sees, Butch. You want to give us an update on that?
oh, well, we're still trying to locate his son. That's the two people that we were dealing with. One trooper and, well, actually 2 troopers. They went dark. So I guess we were getting too close to coming up with something that all of a sudden,
Crazy.
you know, everybody got clammed up quiet. But you know how that works. You know how that works. Just when you think nothing's going to happen, something happens.
Well, that's just it. I mean, when it seems like everything's so quiet, then all of a sudden something comes out all of a sudden. And, you know, and we really haven't been pushing it lately. You know, I haven't been writing about it. I haven't been saying much about it. And the only reason for that is that we just haven't gotten any real, you know, exclusive evidence, you know, other than, you know, the same thing over and over again. I don't know. I am definitely hoping we eventually get something. Maybe we, you know, Butch, maybe we need to go back and do a show about it from the very beginning and present all the evidence again. You know, I mean, that's up to you, but you know,
One of my favorite cases.
maybe I'll put it back out there again.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, it's a good case.
Because, you know, you and I have both been fascinated by that thing from the very beginning. You know, this case, you know, for people who don't understand what happened, the Todd Sees case is basically an individual who lived just off the Montour Ridge near Northumberland, Pennsylvania, but in Northumberland County, Pennsylvania. And apparently this individual got onto his ATV and went up the ridge saying that he was spotting deer. Now, this was in August of 2002. That's one thing I still don't understand. Why in the hell, in the middle of summer, you're out there looking for deer? I just don't get that. But anyway, he went up there, and that's what he told his wife, and that he'd be back at noon. And apparently, he just didn't come back. So everybody got freaked out, didn't know where he was at. And she called the authorities, and within several hours, they had over 200 people looking for this guy on this ridge, around the property on the ridge. And according to later information, particularly from Peter Davenport of New Fork and some other places, we had two eyewitnesses on either side of the ridge. One was a farmer, and two others were fishermen on the west branch of the Susquehanna River, who saw a large disc hovering above the power line that runs down over the ridge down into the valley. And they saw something being pulled up into, which looked like somebody in underwear is what they said, up into the craft.
That's mind blowing.
So after 36 hours or so of investigating and searching the whole area, the body just turns up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Dead. And
on the property.
What's that?
On his property.
Yeah, well, just maybe 70 yards from the house, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They already searched it a couple of times.
The road that the searchers were driving up and down and riding up and down and walking up and down for 2 days.
Well, they had dogs and everything up there. I mean, you know, they had a pond. There was a pond there.
Terrain vehicle.
Yeah, you know. So actually, you know, in a nutshell, what happened after the body was found is they gathered all the people who were doing the search, took them up to the Tuckahoe Fire Department, put them inside of there, closed the doors, and according to people who were in there at the time, a few of them, they were told not to say anything about this and to keep quiet about it. Now, you know, the standard fare was that these people who were telling them to do this were FBI. Well, I have never believed that. I don't think Butch has either. These guys weren't FBI. I believe these were United States Air Force investigators. Yeah. And that from what evidence they found, that they believed it was an abduction from the beginning. Now, I can't prove that it was an abduction. It's all anecdotal evidence. But the body had very little blood in it. They came up with some bullshit excuse that it was cocaine toxicity, which is just a bunch of crap. They were talking about they were talking about a rattlesnake being found near the body and a whole bunch of stuff. Well, Butch was able to get the actual autopsy report that nobody else seemed to be able to get, but Butch got it. How many pages was it, Butch?
6 pages plus the toxicology report.
Right.
Wow.
And the problem is, you guys know where Northumberland is. It's right in the northern middle part of the state. And the autopsy, the body was taken to Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is in the eastern part of the state,
Makes
for the
sense.
autopsy. You know, and you know, the coroner for the county of Northumberland was a local mortician who took the body and stored it in his funeral home until they took it the next day to Allentown. So when the body is finally released to the family, it's in a sealed metal, maybe lead coffin, and the family is told, do not open it.
Oh my God.
And that came straight from the family.
Wow.
So, you know, anything you want to add, Butch? I just did a thumbnail sketch of what was going on.
Was there something stuck on a tree or something?
I don't know, money. I mean, you know, if you were saying about doing a 1 hour show, if we went over that whole case from beginning to end, it'd be a 5 or 6 hour show.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Because you know, there's, you know, over the period of all the years of investigation, I mean, we got statements from people that we didn't even know about. We got information. We connected the person that actually did the autopsy, connected to another guy who worked for the military. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? We try to contact the police. They avoid us like the plague. We try to contact the fire companies for all the search teams that were out there. They hang up on us. Then we call back, the number's disconnected, or there's a block on the line. I mean, it's just, we can go on and on about that case. But and we had the nephew that was killed on his lunch hour by a tractor trailer, and the driver of the tractor trailer was not retained at the scene of the accident of the fatality. He was just driven away. I don't know about those guys.
And this was after.
When I wore a badge, if there was a fatality, there was nobody going nowhere.
But the strange thing about this nephew was, this nephew and I had an argument on a chat board about 2 days before he died. And he was upset because Butch and I were looking into it. He was trying to say that we had no business looking into this case and to stop doing it and to stop bothering people. It wasn't important, you know, that Todd died from cocaine overdose and that was it. And then 2 days later, this guy ends up dead.
Yeah.
You know, he's, you know, high school, just graduated from high school. So, yeah, I mean, that whole thing is strange. Another thing was, we had done a show back on Beyond the Edge Radio. Butch and I were on there, and we did a show about this case and what we had found. Did a brief overview of what was going on. And the one thing that we had stated was we had no access to Todd Sees' personal information, his social security number, anything. And, you know, everything was gone. And I'm telling you, we both tried to get information from the state, local, county, everywhere, you know, and we all got the runaround. The day after the show was aired, Ancestry.com, his social security number and an old traffic ticket, and it showed up on there.
Of course.
All of a sudden. Now, why did that happen? You know, that was very strange. So, it's the craziest, you know, it's one of the craziest cases. I mean, first of all, I do believe that he died as a result of an abduction. And if that is the case, then it's probably the only known case of that happening, at least here in the United States. You know, we have had pushback from MUFON on this from the very beginning.
Yep.
They have been, you know, Nobody has wanted to help. So, what I think I ought to do, I ought to take what we had again. It's been a while since I posted anything. Take what we had again, put it up on the blog, and ask for information. Anybody's got any further information to contact either Butch and I, and see what we can come up with. What do you think, Butch?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, we need to do that because I know this case it leaves a sore spot in me from the very beginning, and I know Butch. I know it's been bothering Butch, but we need to get some answers. We got to find out what the hell happened. So, has anybody else got anything to add?
Did they find something in the tree, or am I just thinking something else? I thought they found something hanging in a tree or somewhere, but
that was the story. But as from Butch, what Butch can tell you, I think that was a load of crap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about a Butch?
Fruit in the tree.
What about a Butch?
They never found his boots.
Yeah, they said the boots were up in the tree.
The ATV. The ATV was exactly 1 mile away from where the body was found on the property.
And he was found right on the property.
The family found the coveralls, which puts a little credence into the sighting of somebody being pulled up into a craft in their underwear, because that's how he was found.
Yep.
In his underwear. No shoes, just white socks, and that area is so rocky. When you walk over it in hunting boots, it hurts. And he had the damage to the bottom of his feet was unremarkable. There was no damage. He had a lot of cuts and scratches, but going through the brush and stuff, or dragged or thrown or wherever, however he got there. But when the family found the coveralls, they went through the coveralls, see if the keys were in there for the ATV. They weren't. So they gave the coveralls over to the police department, and the police department reported to the doctor doing the autopsy that cocaine was found in the pocket. And the family said there was no cocaine in those pockets. There was nothing in those pockets. And just common sense. If this was your brother, and you did find cocaine in that pocket, were you going to give that to the police, or were you going to just dig a little hole and throw it in there?
Yeah, I mean, and the family has really shut up about this from the very beginning. I don't know if they were scared so badly by whoever was in charge to not say anything, but they have been closed mouth about this whole thing. The fact that we got some information about the supposed body being in a sealed metal casket is interesting, but I don't know. It's and another thing, and I don't know if this guy talked to you first or talked to me first, Butch, but there was one individual who said he went to the grave site and stuck a thin metal probe down into where a crypt or casket or something should be, and he never hit anything.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
So maybe there's nothing buried there, I don't know. This whole thing stinks to high heaven. But I would like to have, I would really like to open it up again and get more information and see if somebody will come forward, because it's been pretty dry lately. So maybe we can get that going again. So, guys, I tell you, I thank you for coming on tonight with me, and we are going to do this again. This Fortean Friday show that we're going to present every month is going to be like a round table like this. We're going to pick subjects and we're going to talk about it. And it may be the next one we have is with Carter Bouchard and Marcus Ellis. Well, these two guys are known for Bigfoot, so I think what we'll be talking about that night is Bigfoot. But we can always think of subjects to kind of focus on and then banter about what's going on. I think that is really why I'd like to do that, because get more in depth with certain subjects.
Yeah.
You know, we got a large team. You know, we got almost 20 team members, as well as at least 15 affiliate members. So, you know, it should be pretty nice. It should make for an interesting show every month. So, of course, I invite you guys to be a part of that as we go. We're going to give everybody a chance to get involved with it. But again, I thank you all for coming on tonight. And you all take it easy. I'll be talking to you soon.
Hey,
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, man. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
Had a blast.
You take care, and I'll be talking to y'all. Now, if you have an unexplained encounter or sighting, feel free to contact me through the Phantoms and Monsters blog site. I want to again thank Butch, Ryan, and Rob for joining me this evening. And thanks to each and all of you for watching and chatting. If you made a super chat donation, it's truly appreciated. Your support is what makes this possible. So please like, subscribe, and share. Until next week, stay healthy. Have a safe, enjoyable weekend. Good night.